welcome Pennsylvania County Board of Supervisors Finance meeting. Today's Tuesday, February the 17th. It is now 4:02, 39 Bank Street, Chatham, Virginia, 24531. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Okay. Mr. Bowman?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ingram?
Here.
Mr. Tucker?
Here. All right, thank you. Are there any items to be added to the agenda? Hearing none. Ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Or second.
All right, moved and second. Any discussion on the motion? Please vote electronically. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you so much. We move now to agenda item 5A. Let's see, FY 2027 budget overview. Ms. Vanderhyde.
Yes,
Good afternoon
if you
and
weren't
welcome.
already tired of hearing figures, I've got some more figures for you.
I love
But
it.
what a wonderful presentation we had by the school board and all the good things that they're doing there. It's always good for them to come and share with us, you know, their priorities. All of those have been previously shared with me by Ms. Worley. We got those priorities back in January, and what is so wonderful, and one thing I wanted to point out before we got started, it's important to note they still find more funding to help offset that 1% sales tax, to get more out of the 1% sales tax. So they got over $9 million in SCAP money to help offset those literary loans. So, of course, we're on our second literary loan, which you all will appropriate tonight after your public hearing. It's roughly $17 million. It was awarded to us at $24 million, but because we were able to get those SCAP funds, we didn't have to appropriate as much money, nor will we have to pay back as much money. So kudos to them for always looking out and searching opportunities to maximize the most bang for our buck. I also have reached out to our financial advisors to make sure that they do us a actuarial report about how much more we can borrow to have sufficient funds to be able to make those payments. So I'll be reporting on that to you all at our budget forum when we talk next week. So I'm just going to give you a high level of where we are as far as FY26 is, and then I'll give you a little brief overview of what FY27 looks like right now. So we're going to review our revenues, and I do have you a handout because it may be too small to look at up on the screens. So these are projected year-end 2026 revenue, and these are your major tax categories. So it's basically the 5 or 6 categories that you all have the ability to change with rates or with tax increases or that kind of thing. So these are basically your major tax categories. So real estate, our budget was $34.2 million roughly. We will be at $34.5 million. So additional revenue there of $336,798. Personal property, I will share with you that we do not have confirmed figures yet from the Commissioner of Revenue. I'm working closely with them. They have about 300 vehicles that were not valued. So that means that each one of those vehicles will have to be personally looked at, and then they'll have to apply a value to it. So basically, I've just included information that I think we'll get a little bit more because that's what we've done historically in the past, so roughly about $100,000. Our mobile homes and barns are up just $3,200. M&T is up $18,000. And then we've got machinery and tools is up $18,325. Our merchants capital is down just a hair of $1,500. And our public service corps in real estate. And if you'll remember, we were able to get some early estimates on MVP. So because of that, we still see an increase, but it's not what it would have been if we had just gone with last year's figures and not included MVP. So we're still up $54,373. Personal property for public service corps is down slightly at $12,624. And then our solid waste household fee It pretty much is holding stagnant at roughly $3,050,000. So we were hopeful that we would get to that 95% collection rate. We do not budget 100% of the levy. We never do that because you're never going to collect 100% of what you bill your residents. That a lot of times they wait until it goes into collections. Sometimes we do a really good job of collecting. If you think your bill is being paid at a 95% rate, that's pretty good. Solid waste household fee, we're running about 90. We budgeted 95, but we only got around 90. So that one's the one that's down the most at 165. So we'll make adjustment for that next year. We will not try to increase that. We don't put fluff in if we're not going to get fluff. We are pretty stable with that. So the reason these are so close to on the market is because, remember, you all set that rate early, and we waited until close to the end. So I almost had book figures that I could put in for budget. So these are really good to be as close as they are and as accurate as they are. I can't always promise that. Depends on when we pass that budget. So then for projections for FY 2027, and these are our major tax categories again, just what you just looked at, is what I am proposing currently for FY 27. So on real estate in a non-reassessment year, the way we budget an increase is we look at your building permits. We'll look at the whole year, and I work with Mr. Arnold. He ran me a great report out of the system so that we know more accurately what those figures are. So conservatively, we added about $75 million more in value to our number, so that's why you've got increased revenue. So that is strictly from your growth. We anticipate most of the time it's about a 1% growth a year. It's not anything major. In personal property, that's why you see those figures being the same right now. We're hopeful we can budget the same as we did last year. What I've gotten so far, they sent me some early figures. Those figures are down a tad, so we may have to decrease our personal property. Unlike real estate stays pretty level. Personal property is valued every year by the DMV, so it's really your Kelly Blue value on your cars.
That's right.
And so you don't know who's gotten rid of cars and who's purchased new cars. You hope the purchased cars are greater than the ones they get rid of, but that fluctuates. It's just like this. It's very volatile. So you remember back in pandemic times, used cars went sky high. So then we were getting more real estate then, more personal property tax then, but now they've kind of leveled off. So you can see those figures coming back to what they were before pandemic hit. So that remains to be seen. That's kind of an unknown. Mobile homes and barns are up slightly. We think M&T is going to be up slightly as well. And your machinery and tools, of course, that's all from your reports that are sent in from businesses in the county. And so that's what we rely on. And they're not even due until February 15th. So we just got those figures in. They hadn't been worked yet. So merchants capital, I'm anticipating that that's going to be down a little bit. Your public service corps, and this is where your River Street is and your MVP pipeline. So that's why you're seeing a big increase there of $267,000. Personal properties down slightly. And then, of course, I'm recommending that we decrease that solid waste household fee based on our current fee that we're charging, the $120. So we'll have an increase in those tax revenues of $872,000. Per penny, each penny brings $602,000, just to keep it in perspective. So you got a little over a penny, or I would say a 1% growth, same difference. So moving right along, we'll go to general fund expenditures. I just wanted to show you all an overview of how they have increased. I looked at a 10-year period, and on average, your general fund will increase 6% every year. So the anticipated increase for 2027, based on 6%, should be roughly $5.6 million. Our general fund requests are at $100 million. Your last year was at $92 million, so we got some work to bring that together so that, we can make it work. Our transfers for schools and DSS, that is $1.6 million increase. That's an increase, not how much we give them, but an increase. So you can see what true general fund, if you took out that transfer, you could look at 3.8 for 27, 4.1 for 28, and 4.4 roughly for 29. So you can see, just going by what we normally see as far as general inflation, it goes up each year.
Hang on, Ms. Vanderhyde.
Yes.
Gentleman in the rear, you're kind of talking over our speaker. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right. So the next slide is projected revenue increases with a 1% tax increase per year. So I just threw some figures in there. If you will remember during reassessment, I'm going to remind you all what you said. It was bad to hit your taxpayers all at one wallop. It would have been better had we given the increase a little along. You're putting yourself up, this year we set the tax rate. We understood that early on. We set that tax rate. We knew what we had to work with.
Right.
You cannot do that every year and not think when you get to reassessment that you're not going to be walloped again. So do you want another wallop or do you want a little bit? So I just wanted to show you what a little bit looks like. So, and of course, all of this is up to you. It's up to what you want to fund. It's your budget. So, I'm just the bearer of just telling you what you've got and what I see. So in 2027, if you go to a 57-cent tax rate, you can see all those different pieces of it, what that would mean. But that would bring you $689,069. And if you propose to do 1 cent a year, it's going to, of course, compound. So by the third year, you're at 59 cents, you would be at $2.1 million more. And your per penny tax rate still is only around $605,000. It doesn't fluctuate that much. This is also considering 1% growth in addition to a 1 cent tax rate increase. If you were to do that, this is just a for instance. So some of the challenges I see this year, there are many challenges. We are late in the game as far as what we're going to do with these challenges. We have a good meeting coming up next Thursday, the 26th, that will discuss these in greater detail. But our requests currently, as they stand right now, are at $100,356,092. Based on an average prior year escalation, the general fund should be at or near 98.1 instead of the 92 million that you currently sit at. So that's a $2 million difference in what was asked for and what you would normally expect. Now, does that mean you're going to fund 98 million? No. I mean, you can do whatever you want to, but just saying it shouldn't really be any more than 98 million. Your general fund revenue estimates at this point can only support $94 million, not 98. So I only have money to pay for 94 million at where we stand right now. You're at 92 million budget. That's a $2 million difference. This is without any type of tax increase. Financing will need to be secured this year for water and sewer. For your R&L Smith water line, it's estimated at $5.6 million. I just got annual debt service payments for that project at a 20-year amortization rate. We're looking at just over $400,000 a year in tax payment. You will have to raise water rates or do something to pay that debt. You will not have it. So you have to consider, do you want water line, do you not want water line? And then we have another big water line in the next year that will have to be added as well. So they're coming. The next bullet point is financing will need to be secured by the landfill this year to fund opening the phase 3 Cell D, it is estimated at $8.2 million. That does include opening just one cell, but you have to have a large cost to open the whole phase. So that includes storage tanks and different things that we didn't have to do at that last phase that we opened, so it's more money. We also need to consider financing landfill equipment that needs to be replaced. We've talked about that in the past, that we have some equipment that is in dire need of lots of repair costs, or we need to replace them. So we could potentially be financing $10 to $12 million for our landfill. They do not have the funds to pay this debt. Zero. So we'll have to come up with a way for that to be funded or to do something different. So we'll have those conversations as well. And of course, as Mr. Mayhew told you all, we don't have anything new from the new governor that we have. We are basing our figures off of Governor Youngkin's budget proposal. We would need to increase our contribution to $27.6 million this year. And that is if we go with what we've done in the past, which is the baseline plus 6%, and that would mean a $1.2 million over last year. So that's 2 cents. I mean, that's 2 cents.
Yep.
Just for them. That's not all your other requests. That's a big ask, but if we don't give schools what is expected of us to give schools, then they don't get their state money. So just bear that in mind too. So the last slide that I have is just to remind you of our budget forum that's set for February the 26th. That's next Thursday. It's from 9 to 2. And we'll have a discussion with certain department heads requesting large increases for the coming year. And we'll discuss setting that tax rate. Because at this point, we should almost know what we're doing. And we're not nowhere near that point. Mr. Shorter would have to present you all with a balanced budget by March the 10th, which is on your budget calendar. So we may need to also consider calendar revision for the budget calendar. And I have that attached if you want to take the packet with you to review to see what you have available as different dates. Our advertising requirements are such that you almost need a month now, a good 3 weeks anyway, before you hold a public hearing. Then you have to wait 7 days after that in order to pass your budget. So basically you have two options. If you set your rate, then you have longer to determine what you want to do with budget. So you really don't need a budget till July 1. Last year, we did not formally adopt the budget until May. And you can see we were much tighter as far as knowing our figures. And it was, you felt comfortable with it instead of just having to do it. This is on a tight schedule because on a year that we don't know what the tax rate is, Commissioner of Revenue nor the Treasurer feel comfortable at all with working on tax bills until that rate is set. And if you don't know what you're doing and we're flip-flopping and not sure, they're not going to touch a bill. And in order for those bills to go out and taxpayers to have sufficient time to be prepared to pay that June 10th payment, bills need to be in mailboxes by May 15th at the very latest. And it takes a good 2 weeks for the Commissioner and 2 weeks for the Treasurer to get those bills worked out and sent out to our constituents. So it's a tight schedule. So it's always nice if you can set that rate. But with that, I'll entertain any questions. I am not a good bearer of bad news, but this one's a tough one, a very tough one, because you got issues not just in your general fund, which is normally the case, but you need to determine something in water and sewer. You need to determine something at the landfill. So,
Ms. Van der Hyde, you are not a bearer of bad news. You are just giving us reality. So don't feel like you're coming in here giving us bad news. It's just the climate that we're living in. Numbers are the only true science. 1 and 1 is going to equal 2, every time you perform that operation, so it's scientific, so we have to make sure we're paying attention to the variables. Gentlemen, any discussions or questions for Ms. Van Hyde? Yes, sir. Mr. Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Ms. Vander Hyde, I was looking over this. I'm going to go back to the beginning here real quick,
Okay.
just as a recap. You mentioned the fiscal year and the revenues, and you mentioned the year in the same, sort of in that same presentation. The fiscal year ends on 30 June, correct? Now, are we talking any of this as a calendar year from January through December?
No.
Okay.
Fiscal.
All right, so it's all fiscal. So these estimates that you've got here are based on historical estimates, a lot of these?
Yeah,
Because-
I look at what typically has happened as far as budget to actual in the years past. I look at what's come in so far in December, and then look like this past year at December and compare the two, like December of '24 to December of '25, see how close we were budgetarily, and then that's kind of how you budget or your estimate for the coming year. Now, of course, a lot of factors play into that. Like this year, I also had to look at the fact that a lot of the bills that came in December were not worked until January because they had issues with the check scanning equipment at the treasurer's office. So a lot of those revenues didn't get counted in December, they were counted in January. So, a lot of factors go into that.
Okay.
But
I-
yes, this is what I think we will get
Right.
by June 30 of 2026.
I just want to make clear that's what's going on here, especially for the public, if they're watching this, to see where you come up with the numbers, okay? So going through the big ticket items, if you will, I see these, I see where we've talked about these prior to this meeting. We know they're out there, but I don't see, and you probably already have met with the sheriff, I don't see his request in here. I don't see the fire and EMS in here.
Right,
So,
they're also big requests.
okay,
And those are the ones that we'll talk about on Thursday. Some of those big departments that will come in, we've already talked to them to tell them to be prepared.
okay,
For the sheriff, just to name some of the things that I see, the sheriff, we wanted a rotation of vehicles so that we no longer leased anymore. And based on what we've come up with in finance, that would mean $800,000 that we would need to budget for next year,
these are just for vehicles,
just for vehicles,
Okay.
to replace the ones that need to be replaced.
okay,
Because we did a big buy in '20, and that was a lease purchase. Well, a lot of those vehicles now need to be replaced again. So, of course, last year, we budgeted $300,000, so it would be an additional $500,000 on top of what we budgeted last year. One other thing that is a positive thing that I will share with you, this $100 million that is a request was prior to us finding out just last week that the governor has agreed to continue the SRO program, which was going to cost the general fund $500,000. So, hey, I found you $500,000. We have, since this came out, that we have gotten VRS figures that are less. So I'll be reworking those figures as far as retirement is concerned. So those figures will come down some, maybe a couple of $100,000. So that's some positive news. Fire and Rescue, they have asked for increases operationally to the tune of maybe $1.4 million more than last year. And you should have seen that in your breakdown as far as summaries. And then their capital, they've asked for a large request there. They want to increase ambulances again this year, the amount that we contribute for those. They want to increase fire truck contributions as well. And then a big ticket that was not there previously is $500,000 a year for 3 years for a ladder truck. And that hasn't been there before. So there are some things, and hopefully somebody from the Fire and Rescue Association will be at this meeting to talk to you all about that.
Okay.
And it's mostly the volunteer side of things, The public safety career side didn't really ask for a large increase this year. So, but they're the big ones. Landfill's a big one,
Right.
as always. And so we've asked Mr. Adcock to come as well, so.
Good. And my last question, health insurance for staff. How is that compared to last year? Up, down, level?
Well, we are looking into that because we have been told that our claims are down, but what's showing as far as monies coming out of our fund doesn't reflect that. So we are working with our advisor to see what that means, because I could see us having a very large increase, and it may be a time for us to look at different type of funding for our health insurance fund. You know, our auditor mentioned that he was concerned with the balance in that fund, but we would have to look at options.
Okay.
Because right now, we're self-funded, so we pay all of our claims. We pay expected premiums, which means they're expected to cover your claims. And so if your claims are greater than what they expect them to be, then you can anticipate a big increase.
Okay.
But our last meeting with them, oh, your claims are down, but yet our draws on the fund are greater. So we're looking into why that is, the culprit of that.
Good.
So.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Any other questions? I'm going to save mine for the forum. We're going to
Okay.
have fun next week.
Okay, we will.
Thank you so much, Ms. Van der Hyde. I appreciate the presentation and keeping us in the loop in terms of what's going on financially. All right, let's see here. Anything else for the Finance Committee? Any comments, remarks?